All right, we're live. Sam,
Hello,
behave yourself. We're expecting Susie. She's having a little trouble logging in, but we'll keep an eye out for her. And some of the usual panel is here. Gosh, I can't talk. Skipper there beside me, and Mike down in the corner there, and then down below me is Pam. And then our special guest is Foxie, and Brian is there with her. So, and when I say special, I mean special in her knowledge or experience, and that she's very loved by our fish fam. So, lots of ways she's special. So, and she had came on with a fundraiser that we had streamed for Mike. It's up there in that corner. To help him out, and she had actually donated one of her axolotls and optioned that off to donate to Mike. So we got some information and a look at them then, and so we asked her, "Will you come back on and give us more? Talk about them more." I know it's something she's very passionate about. We talked about it a little bit in our messages when we were talking about it, and I don't have any specific line of questions set up. I thought this would just go very well if we just kept it informal and let her introduce herself and her topic and let it go. And can we interrupt you with questions, or should we wait till the end?
Oh, you can interrupt me with questions.
Okay.
We also just might have to hold it on track because, I am known to derail.
Okay, that's fun. We do that all the time on here. And guys, her link, everybody's link you'll see in the chat, but if you're not subscribed to Foxie, you need to be, because you're really missing out. All right, ma'am.
Hello, everyone in chat. So we have fastly become axolotl farmers. And I say it that way because it is honestly like having livestock, but more instead of the fish variety, it's the axolotl variety. So, and then being specialized animals require more care and attention and maintenance. So it keeps me quite busy. So that's why y'all been seeing me less. But they have truly stolen my heart since I found them. About 2 years ago, Brian purchased me a pair from our Ace Hardware, which is where our local fish store is. And this past just before Christmas, they spawned for their very first time, and they laid upwards of 200-ish eggs for their first spawn. And from that spawn, we sent out some to a teacher in Florida for her classroom to hatch out, and to someone else in FishFam, Miss Lori, to hatch out as well. And we hatched out the rest of the babies, and they are doing so very well here. And watching them grow and watching how they interact with each other, and just their daily in and outs of how they interact, especially if they're on their own, whether they're social with people or whether they're interacting with each other. It's unique, and it made me look into them more, not just because I just wanted to.
I'm hearing a lot of noise.
It's the dog getting into the cat food. I'll mute myself here for a minute.
Sorry.
So, in having.
Did you see what Susie said in Messenger?
Yeah.
Okay.
So having these guys around, I began looking into them more because they're just so cute and they're everywhere. And I began to learn a lot about them, not just the basics of how to care for them like I had before, but the fact of how endangered they are in their native habitat, and the different types of programs that people have established to make sure that they don't become fully extinct, and the conservation efforts that people and hobbyists are putting in to make sure that these guys don't fully become extinct. So that really made me more passionate about it. I had more of a drive because I feel like it's part my responsibility as well for having these axolotls to make sure that they are kept well and they're kept strong and that they are kept here as long as possible, and that through just hobbyists and conservationists or little people like me, that these guys won't ever go anywhere. That's it. And hopefully one day they'll all be able to be reintroduced to their habitats. Because right now, the axolotl is only endemic to one specific spot on Earth, and that's Lake Xochimilco in Mexico City. They don't exist anywhere else naturally. That's where they come from. And right now, Lake Xochimilco has been reduced from originally 50 square miles to 90 by 90 kilometer canals. So through intensive farming and just population growth and water usage, the bodies of water have become very small and polluted, and there's also no fresh water being run into these canals anymore. The only water returned to these canals is from a sewage treatment plant. So the only water source to the native axolotls' homes right now is from a sewage treatment plant. And there are huge measures underway by a program called MOJA, M-O-J-A, which is the Lake Xochimilco National Historic Land Preserve. They have taken it under their wing to make sure that the axolotls don't go extinct as well. And they have started trying to raise money to rehab the lands, to hire people to repopulate the trees, because the native trees have been taken away from the farming actions as well, and also reduce the explosive population of the Mojara fish, which are exotic predators that have been introduced to the waterways. So they've been eating the axolotls. So these little guys literally have had no hope in their native habitat, and it makes me really sad to think about that. They did their first drag search in 1996 to see what the numbers were of axolotls in the environment, and then there were 6,000 per square kilometer. They redid it in 2014. There were only 36 per square kilometer.
Oh, wow.
When they did their search in 2018, they only found one total. And when they did it in 2022, they found none in their local waterways. So technically, although it's not been classified yet as that search, they're considered functionally extinct in their native habitat. So through the program MOJA, or repronounce it, they are trying to take the waterways back, make it cleaner, work with the farmers that work on these little strips of land between the canals. They are the farmers that produce all the food for Mexico City, and they are responsible for keeping these waterways clean due to the runoff of whatever they put on their farms and such, which runs into the waterway. So MOJA has been working with them to establish new tree lines, to go back to the old original way of farming without pesticides or preservatives, anything like that, and also establishing bog systems into the waterways to help naturally filter the water, since there is no other way and the pollution's really high. And they noticed that the water is getting better. They've tested some axolotls to see if they can survive in the waterways, and the waterway is improving, but long term the axolotls cannot still. They still have a shorter lifespan. But what has been really, really awesome is that a program with the University of Mexico in Mexico City called CIBAC, CIBAC, has taken up a quarry very close to the university, which is very close to Lake Ochimilco, and through natural groundwater bubbling up through this abandoned quarry, 4 kettle lakes have formed in this quarry bowl, and this water has been a pristine habitat for axolotls. So just a few years ago, they introduced 10 axolotls with tracking devices, and when they last dragged the quarries, they found 150 axolotls. So the population is starting to take off, which is great, which means they're starting to establish in another spot. It may not be their native habitat, but it is only a few miles away. And this is in hopes that this repopulation boom in these kettle lakes in this little quarry bowl will be the axolotls that can be transferred over to the Lake Ochimilco system once the conservation efforts have cleaned it up enough. So that's what I'm pushing for right now, is for people to be aware of how very, very possible we can lose these guys in just a few years if we don't, try to help spread the word about it and through these conservation efforts. And I really wanted to get the word out about these and possibly try to raise up donations if anybody can as well, because every dollar donated to these programs just is to reinsure to go out. It goes all out to community education, preservation, conservation, to make sure that axolotls are a continued species and they don't go extinct.
Do you have links that people could donate to or read more about it?
Yes, the specific link for MOJA is moja.ong, and that is their specific website. And through that, you can find the donation link. You can also find 3 videos about their conservation efforts out on the waterways of the Lake Milco territories and what they're doing in conservation and what their donations have gone towards so far. Like if you were to click on their website right now, you would see that they've been able to plant 10,000 trees. They're able to monitor 24/7, 10 kilometers of the waterways all the time. And they have created 20 new jobs to do so. So all these conservation efforts have done that, and all these, and they've also gone to training tools such as going out and educating the farmers about the dangers of the chemicals that they use on their farms, and the idea of bog systems where they're introducing the marginal plants to help filter the waterways as well. So all of that is going to the education of those systems, which is totally awesome. So I'm totally behind that, because we can have a population that we're trying to keep stable and healthy, but if we don't have a place to return them to, eventually it's just going to fail, because what is currently happening in laboratories especially is that we're coming on a genetic bottleneck with the axolotls, because they've been so bred into themselves over time. The first axolotls were actually imported from Mexico to France. 34 of them were sent over in 1864 to France, and they were sent out to rich people. But there was one specific professor that took 6 of them, and that was Professor Dumaril, if I'm pronouncing his name, probably not. But he took his 6 axolotls and he bred them, and they were prolific for him. And he didn't realize at first that they were in their full form. He thought they were babies of some type of salamander. But then 6 months later, when they spawned for him and made more of themselves, he realized that he had something special. And from his axolotl spawns, most of the axolotls in laboratories today are from his lineage. So
Wow.
that was in 1864. And although they've added some other lines in to try to strengthen the genes, it's still created a genetic bottleneck in the laboratory. So it's very hard to find a genetic diversity, and it's very important to keep it as genetically diverse as possible, which SciBac is trying to do in Mexico. And they have a repopulation maintenance program where they've collected all the wild axolotls that they could from Lake Xochimilco, and they're also accepting axolotls from around the world whose genetics test pure enough. So you can actually get in contact with SciBac with your axolotl, and you can send in a genetic sample, which is just a swab of their mouth with payment, and they will test it. And if your genetics are pure enough, they will request for you to send some of your spawn to them to add to the repopulation pool. So I've been considering doing that with my leucisticus because they have all of these specifics, and I think that they might be a good genetic match. And how awesome would that be to have something that helps?
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
That would be really cool. Like, I think that'd be really cool. So,
especially since you got your two axolotls, they bred for you, and you're so passionate about it now that it would be awesome that you would have those genes and you could help out that way.
Yes. So it would, I mean, it's a slim chance that mine haven't been crossbred over time to strengthen their genetics, but in the slim chance that it is a possibility, because when they crossbreed them with other species, and there's one specific one that they do, I just can't remember. It's a hard name to remember off the top of my head. The Andersoni species. When they cross with them, their head shape changes and they have less fingers. But my guys have all the proper fingers and they have the proper head shape. So I really think that these guys are a good genetic qualifier. And they do not glow, which is another important thing, because if they have the GFP gene, which was introduced in laboratories, they're not suitable for reintroduction to nature, because natural axolotls do not glow.
Right.
So, right,
I just want to make sure I posted this right. You said MOJA.ONG, right?
ONG, yes.
Okay, so everybody that goes to this website, because I went to it, yes, it is in Spanish, but the Google,
if you scroll down, it's in English. I think only the first line or two is in Spanish.
You can also, Google will translate it for you, and it'll change the whole screen. So you can still, and then go to the conservations that they're doing, and you'll see the axolotl part. There you go.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you got me really thinking about this now too, because I got my son one at the Keystone Clash, and just one, because you know I don't want 200 babies in my you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm one of the people that will try to raise them,
Well, you'll only have 200 babies if you remove the eggs.
Well, that's true.
That's how axolotls work.
Won't look right. I'd have to. It's one of my instincts that I do.
I know, right? Save them all. You have to save them all.
Oh man, I just dropped one. Oh well, that fish got it. Whoops.
There's a lot of eating each other too.
Yeah, when you have them a lot in the tanks together, when you're tank raising them like in groups, you have a lot of cannibalism, because they're ambush predators. They say they don't have good eyesight, but when they're little, I don't believe that's as true when they're little, because they can see pretty darn well pretty far away. Like, I can be across the room and they know I'm coming. And they're all at the front like, feed me first, and snapping at each other just because they brush up against each other. So it's not like they purposefully go after each other. It's like, oh, something just hit my face, I'm going to snap at it. And that's what they do. And then they lose an arm. And then it grows back perfectly in 3 weeks, because they're neogenic and they're paleomorphic. And as all of that goes, their cells dedifferentiate differentiate to turn into stem cells. So any part of their body they lose, even parts of their brain and parts of their eye, they can totally regenerate within 3 weeks like it never happened.
Now we know why they call them aliens.
They're incredible. If we can ever break their genetic factors of why they're able to de-differentiate and we're not, we will have the same, be able to heal all kinds of injuries, brain injuries, limb amputations, genetic deformities. We can fix it all.
So there are funded studies still going on about that.
Yes, there are studies going on for all kinds of things with them. But the thing that is most studied is they're trying to figure out that trait to break the de-differential gene of how they can turn other cells back into stem cells that went with an injury. So that's really cool. But they did note that Professor Dumerel did note that when he fed his axolotls thyroid tissue, they transformed into a salamander, but they only lived about a year afterwards because they're not meant to transform. It's not in their protocol to do so. But iodine makes them transform into land animals. So through that study, scientists later on were able to figure out how to manufacture the thyroid medicine thyroxine, which was the first synthetic thyroid medicine ever put on market, and that was all thanks to axolotls.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Great.
Of course, I know about thyroxine, but I didn't know that. Awesome.
Oh, that's just crazy.
Awesome. I was going to ask if you don't mind. You've raised them successfully, and I haven't, and I'm not going to talk about mine much at all, except to say I have them spawn all the time. They're fertile, and I've had them hatch, but I never get past 2 weeks. Never do. And I've sent them to Holly. I can't remember her channel name. And I've also sent them to Susie Q, and some even hatched on the way, and some after they got there. But the same thing, they didn't go past 2 weeks. So I don't think it's something I'm doing. And I've tried all different things and modified things. So I'm beginning to think it's genetic.
Are
But,
they siblings that are spawning?
Send
they
us.
probably are. But I have 2 males. So I'm sure she spawns with both of the males.
Yeah.
So, but that may be the problem. But yeah, my leucistics are siblings.
And what are you feeding them?
They,
Like in the very
Gosh.
beginning?
the babies, I do the brine shrimp and fly brine shrimp. I hatch it out and that kind of thing. So I do the water changes every day, sometimes a couple of times a day. And see, Susie doesn't do that. She
Yeah, we
just
don't either.
she just puts hers, in a tank and keeps it clean without water changes, filtered. So I don't know. They grow for a couple of weeks, and then they just start dying one by one.
And are you keeping them on bare bottom as well in the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, that is strange because that's what we feed ours in the very beginning too, is live hatch baby brine shrimp upwards of 5 times a day.
Yeah.
But we keep them either in a tank of their own bare bottom with a sponge filter, low flow, or breeder box with a low pass through flow, the bubble flow through. And then when they get to about, I want to say about a month old, we start feeding the pieces of the carnivore pellets or
Well, you chop up the bloodworms.
or very small pieces of baby bloodworm baby bloodworm. They love bloodworms, and they'll actually grow the fastest if you feed them a steady diet of bloodworms. But for them to just stop failure to thrive at 2 weeks, I would think it's more of a genetic condition if it's all of them across the board where you send them out. But like Brian said, your next spawn, you can try sending us some and we can see if it happens here too.
Okay. They just had a spawn about a week ago, and I just left them there, and I don't see any in there. I just left all the eggs in there.
How often
don't
do they
seem to
spawn?
Yeah, how often do yours spawn for you?
I don't, every month, sometimes up to 6 weeks, but it's pretty much every month
Wow.
regularly that they, yeah,
I
all
thought
the
they would
time.
only spawn like once a year, like during the winter
No.
season.
Oh no, I've had 3 or 4 spawns since I put them in this 33 behind me here.
Wow. Well, right now we
Yeah.
have 115 babies still here, and Mama Axolotl's extra, extra, extra plump, and Daddy's been a little feisty. So I think that they might spawn again, and I'm not doing this till next year. I don't have too many babies here.
You're gonna have to let them ones in the tank.
Oh goodness, yeah,
or
leave them
ask
in there.
or ask people if they want eggs.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll
I'll send out
definitely
eggs,
send
but
you
I'm
some.
not hatching out any more babies this year. So the babies that we have is what we have for this year. And once these babies are moved out, the parents and Duke, my super glow melanistic, are all going into a 40 breeder together to be community lottles. So I'm
That's cool.
excited. I need to get these babies going so I can get them into bigger tanks.
So what do you feed your adult ones? I found a food that Danny from Danikin Aquatics feeds.
Hmm.
She showed me, and I started feeding that axolotl that stuff, and it just boosted its growth. There's bloodworm sticks in it, and there's a bunch of protein stuff in it. It's called ABF Gourmet.
Hmm.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of it. We've tried axolotl pellets with our axolotls before, and they wouldn't eat the axolotl pellets. Everything in the house else in the house would, but not them. The things that we feed the adults is the Hikari carnivore pellets, live full wiggler worms, half a night crawler sometimes if mama's really hungry. Sometimes I'll give them jumbo bloodworms, but you don't really want to give adults that because they can just filter them back out through their gill holes and they'll get stuck and irritate them. So you don't really want to give them bloodworms as adults, but mostly just worms. Worms, whole fish, as long as they're not sickly and they're small enough to be able to eat them. We have a lot of fish tanks, so sometimes we have some coals and they'll get them as a treat. I always fed generic mute pellets and my axolotl did fine.
I'm going to send you the link on Facebook, and I want to see what you think about it.
As long as they are super high protein, whatever it is,
It is.
that's what they need because in nature, all they eat is worms and fish. So that's what you want to feed them in captivity.
Yeah, it's definitely high in protein.
As diet as possible.
Okay.
I always just feed whatever I'm coming around with to feed everybody, and I always have 4 things on my tray. So I usually give the axolotls a couple of things. Sometimes it is a few bloodworms, but not very often. But, yeah.
Did yours like shrimp?
Sometimes I chop up jumbo creel,
Mm-hmm.
and they will eat it if the pieces are not that big. But if they're too big, they'll spit them out. So I might as well just chop them up. I stop, trying to break them in half. So
Yeah.
I make 4 pieces out of a frozen jumbo krill. So they'll eat them.
Now we've tried ours on shrimp, especially the babies with the mysis shrimp, to try to give us a break from the bloodworms because they're so expensive and they eat a flat every 4 feedings.
The store runs out a lot.
Yeah, they can't keep up with our axolotls' bellies, appetites. So we were trying the mysis shrimp and they wouldn't eat them. They would rather eat the frills on each other than eat the mysis shrimp. And I was starting to think maybe because the mysis shrimp kind of look like them, that they wouldn't eat them.
Huh. I don't know. They will eat mysis shrimp, and what I feed more than mysis is frozen spirulina brine, and they love that too.
Cool. Spirulina brine. We've done the live hatched ones, but we haven't tried the frozen brine or spirulina brine with them. I'll have to try that. But I'm trying to bring Brian up right now on it so he can go and show you guys some baby axolotls if you'd like to see.
Cool. Awesome.
Did that link work?
Yes, it did. I'm going to leave it. Yes, it did. Thank you.
I was a little worried about it because it gave me more than what I thought it was going to.
There he is.
So here's the camera. So just press the click button that's off now. And when you go out there, you can just touch it again and it'll turn it off.
I was only going to the room for.
You can try going in the room, but it might cut you off. We just put a new 40 breeder in on the axolotl axolotl rack now, but it was the Rasbora rack. And since we took down the 510s and put up the 140, it's kind of really cut out the internet in there. Would you use Hikari Bunny?
Yeah, they were pretty
Oh, they're
fascinating.
tough.
And
So yes, I've been super stuck on axolotls since I was introduced to them from Ace, and then Susie Q was so kind to send us some eggs to hatch out. So these are the guys in the 40 breeder in the bedroom.
Let me blow this up. Hang on.
We have 37 of them in here.
That's crazy.
Ah,
Okay.
hello, Hammy.
So they do like fish. There's some of them that are going to outcompete others for food, and some of them just naturally are bigger.
Yes.
So they're different sizes. See, mine never get past 2 weeks, so I don't get to see that. So, wow.
And as they grow, we've upgraded their tank sizes, or we've separated them out more. Now that's Duke, our super glow melanistic. We just don't have the blue light on him at the moment.
Oh, he's cool.
He is very cool. He's my favorite little monster.
He looked like, you know, he remind me of with them eyes whenever he got close with Stitch.
Yeah.
He does.
His eyes glow an intense green.
Oh my gosh, that is freaking cool.
I love him so much.
Yeah.
He's the one that keeps
That
jumping
is
out of the
cool.
tank to try to be closer to me on land. He's super attached to me.
Hey, you know, whenever you were saying about that they don't see you, I'm gonna tell you, whenever I walk into the kitchen, I have that axolotl trained to go to one corner to eat.
Yeah, no, we have ours trained as well. We have them trained to eat in the front, and they're also light trained. So if the light's off, no food. But if we turn the light on, they're going to be fed.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
And we did that because they're being colony raised together, and they're less likely to like eat each other or eat parts of each other if they know the lights are off and there's no food coming.
It's funny because whenever
That's
I
bad.
come to the room,
And those are the parents in this tank. That's Mama. Look how fat she is.
you got
Oh,
that
yeah.
egg.
She's really big. So right now we have them in a 20 long, and that's their breeding tank. It's on top of my dresser in my bedroom. That's Daddy Axolotl.
Sorry, what size tank did you say it was?
They are currently in a 20 long right now, but that's because they're breeding. When they're not in breeding, you want them in something bigger. So you really want them in a 20 long per axolotl, or as adults, you want them in like a 40 or as 2. You can get away with 3 as long as you have enough hides.
Okay. Yeah, because I got one, and I was going to set up a 20 long for my son.
Okay, so he's going to walk to the living room and show you guys the other rack and tanks of axolotls we have in there. Question for Roxanne. I would love to add plants to my axolotl tank once the baby can handle sandy substrate. Recommendations of plant species, much obliged. Lady R, I recommend any low light plants because you're not going to want to have lights on while they're floating in the plants. They like to sleep in the plants, use them as beds. So I recommend floating plants like hornwort if it's legal where you are, water sprite, Anubias, Java fern mats is the easy go-to plants. Guppy grass they like. I don't know if I said that already.
No, you
but
didn't
these
say
are the
that.
babies, so we still have them on the bare substrate, and we have the plants in there. You might see them popcorning. They're still waiting to eat today.
So I got a question because I've heard a bunch of different things. There was a video I was watching about axolotls, and they said do not put them on substrate because they will eat the sand.
You don't want to put them on substrate until they're at least over 5 inches. So I like to say 6 inches just to be safe. Floatolotls, they're up sleeping. But I would not put them on substrate just to make sure that they don't become impacted until they're 6 inches. I mean, I have had them on there beforehand with no issues, but I would rather, but that wasn't because they hatched out on sand. But I didn't leave them in there
Right.
very long. I got them out within a couple of days, the babies. But I would rather say do as I say, not as I do, because a pound of prevention, or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure with these guys, because they're very easy to become injured or impacted, and they're very, very, very hard to heal. So these guys are the what we built the movable rack for. I know it's a little dark, but there's 24 containers on a 20-gallon long sump, and so we have 24 axolotls up there. The first 3 are Jeffrey and Bean and Dee Dee, and those 3 already have homes, and all the other guys are available for new homes as well. And if you guys would like to hand select any of your axolotls personally, you can email us and we can set up a video call and we can give you a tour of each individual axolotl baby on the rack, and you can hand pick out which axolotl we would like to take home with you.
That's cool. When
So Brian built this just for my axolotls. In the very beginning, we're gonna, after the axolotls are moved out, we'll use it for fish fry. And it works so very smooth. And I only flooded the house once. But all these babies are doing really good in here. Each container, we can vary the speed because their drip flow each has their own valve. But typically they're getting turned over about 7 times each an hour. And they all have their own names.
So when, how old do they have to be able to sex them?
It's more of a size than an age. When they hit about 5, 6 inches, you'll start noticing their sexual dimorphism. So the females will have a really round belly, and the males will have a more narrow belly, but a very pronounced cloaca, because they are amphibians, so they have cloacas, but it will look like just a jump ball sack at the base of their tail. But the females will have a small one too. The males will just be larger with a smaller belly. The females will have a smaller cloaca with a larger belly.
Okay.
So you can take the camera down, yeah. But those are all the babies.
That's cool.
But he said old enough to see their balls, Skipper.
You have a,
That's funny.
then you know what yours is, Skipper?
Well, now that I got some, I think it's a female, which is fine. Doesn't matter what it is at this point because I don't plan on breeding. But my son, because it's his, he got into watching a bunch of YouTube videos about axolotls. And he said, Dad, that's probably a female. I was like, okay. I kind of figured it was because of what he was learning. And whenever I brought this thing home, it was this big from the Keystone Clash. And now
they grow fast.
Yeah, it's. I got to get that 20 long set.
Yeah. And a 20 long can be its lifelong home.
Yeah.
But just know they can live up to 15 years, and if you take extra good care of them, some have been reported to living to 20. So
that's cool.
you need to be prepared.
Oh, okay. I have another question. Sorry if I'm taking over the questions, everybody.
No, that's what we're here for.
Okay, I remember, you know how like some people will feed them earthworms, red wigglers, and stuff like that. So there was some debate over that. Is if you go to a bait shop and buy it, there could be a possible chemical or like a chemical, but I think it was like the soil that they were grown in, it helps them grow faster. The worm itself, and they were saying that it would kill the axolotl if you did it that way.
Well, I've read and I've seen videos that with that specific soil, when people go to feed an axolotl, that type of worm that's been grown in soil like that, they won't eat it. They spit it out. But I don't get my worms from big shops. I actually go to the pet store and get the worms because that way I know they're safe. And eventually I'd like to actually start my own worm farm. That way I don't have to go and actually buy the worms anymore. We can just have them on demand. But
Right.
I don't recommend buying them from a bait shop because you don't know. You don't know where they came from, where they've been raised, what kind of soil they've been introduced into, or kind of compost they've been fed. So I'd recommend if you can get them from a pet store, especially like a reptile store or something, if they have that amphibians, you're more likely to find worms for them that are definitely going to be safe.
For your front yard.
Yeah, you can also pick them. That's another good thing. As long as your yard isn't treated with anything or along riverbanks, you can go and pick them as well.
Get them electrodes out.
Mhm.
Get that bait to go fishing. I watched my grandfather, my great grandfather. We used to catch the worms. It's funny. It just got done raining. I said, "Well, aren't you going to put them electrodes in the ground?" He goes, "No." He was doing a dance, and these worms just started coming up out.
Yeah.
I was like, "That's crazy."
I've seen some YouTube videos of that.
Have hear some noise again.
It's
Sounds like chips or something.
like that hungry.
Sounds good.
Somebody's getting a little
Does
snack.
your male? Yeah. Does your male dance? Does he do the little dance for her? Some do and some don't. Mine does. It's really cute. Like they shake their butt.
I have not
Does he ever do that?
I have not caught them actually in that action. I've only caught her spawning all over the tank, dropping eggs for like 8 days straight. But I never got to see the dance because I didn't realize that they were so close. I thought I still had a little bit of time left, and it was my first spawn with them. So no, I didn't know the signs and symptoms to look for besides eggs to be in the tank, and that's what we found was all the plants and all the substrate was coated with eggs. But I did notice recently that they like to sleep. They pick the smallest cave in that tank, and they like to cuddle in it together. They like to be really tight and comfortable together. But I noticed just a few days ago, the male went in there and dug all the sand out of the cave because the female has been so fat she can't fit in there anymore. They've been snuggling in there again. So maybe they're going through the motions right now. But I haven't gotten to see any outside action outside that little tiny terracotta pot they call home.
That's crazy because that's like what plecos do whenever they breed.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I just find the eggs all over. Like when I'll be feeding at night, I'm like, oh my God, and I'll start looking, and then they're everywhere, everywhere. The filter, everything. Yeah,
and it's so cool to watch the eggs transform if you get the chance to, because they do it so rapidly. They go from just clear to black line floating, then they develop their neural tube, and then they start to unfold, become little baby axolotls. Within 48 hours, they start to take shape. And you can see all of this with the naked eye through their membrane. It is incredible. They are truly incredible animals.
Didn't you do a video with that, or?
Yeah, I did a live stream of Lucy, Ricky, Ethel, and Fred hatching. And those are 4 still available on the rack. No one's taken those guys yet. But those are the ones anyone saw.
You said Ethel?
Yes. Lucy. It was the Lucy.
I think I'm going to need to get a female. I think I need to get a female, and when she's old enough, will spawn, see if it's a genetic thing. Maybe their genetics are far enough apart, and plus these two are siblings. I'm sure they are.
Well, definitely you're next
mine
on. If you want to send us some eggs to see if we can get them through week 2, then we know it might not be genetic. It might be something else. But if we fail with them at week 2, then we know then it's possible you might need to introduce another genetic.
Yeah.
Mat,
that would be 4 of us if they do the same. It would be 4 of us. So. Yeah. I got mine from Ginger Graves in Nashville. She's a pharmacist. She's a goat in the fish fam. She's been around forever, but she has lots and lots of stuff. And a pharmacist she worked with got a pair, and then he had 1,000,000 of them all of a sudden. So she was trying to give them away, and Ed and Chattanooga Ed and FishFam Fever James and I went over there, and we all got some, and I got just a pair. And Ed didn't get any. No, Ed didn't ever get any. But that's where mine came from. So they are siblings. I just remembered.
Nice. Ours came from Ace Pet Store. I don't know where they came before that. But that's why I want to send them out to the SciBac program to see if they are able to be introduced into that program. And if they are, then I know they're genetically diverse too. Be happy, be able to trade with other hobbies to keep their genetics strong as well. So
You got to do that. Like that's a no-brainer.
My big normal.
yeah.
My big normal male came from a overpopulation situation in a store in Atlanta. And I think James Fisher and Fever got some there too, and Ed still declined. But I got one large male there. That, she spawns with both of them. So
I tell you, it's they're not for everybody.
They're not. They're not a beginning fish keeper's pet. They require cool water, constant clean water. They need stable parameters. They don't like bright light. They're ambush predators. You really can't keep them with anything. They're sensitive skin biome, so you got to keep smooth stuff in there. You can't always keep substrate in with them. You got to worry about the plants that can tolerate the light that they require. And when they get sick, it takes a long time to get them better. And sometimes you got to take them to an exotic vet when it gets too bad. So they're not for everybody. You really have to know what you're doing to go in. And it's like I said, it's always better to have an ounce of prevention than a pound of cure because it takes them forever to heal. Jaganlayer says Ed is not a salamander guy.
no.
I think what I'm going to do, because I was going to put sand in that tank, but now I think I'm going to get them bigger river rocks and put it.
I would sit. Well, if it fits in their mouth, if bigger, I wouldn't do it.
I mean, big. I ain't
Like the
talking-
rounded ones, that would be fine.
Yeah.
That would be fine. They might just make sure that they don't slide to accidentally catch their legs or anything, so they don't shift at all. Make sure the
Yeah,
pile's
that's true too.
stable. But
That
if
too.
any other substrate, if it's not big rounded river stone, I recommend very, very fine substrate, very fine sand.
Yeah, I have the pool filter sand in there right now, so don't
I
have to
did the
start
bigger
that.
rocks. I tried the bigger rocks too, Skipper, and it was cool, but I was real careful not to stack them or, lay them so they'd fall like Roxanne said, but it was hard to clean. I found myself always having to blow debris out from under. And they try to get down there. They know it's down there, so they were always trying to move rocks. So I thought, this is not good.
I'll just stick with that.
And
sand.
sometimes they get the case of the zoomies, so they'll throw stuff everywhere when they're running.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're so much fun to watch. They really
They
are.
are. And they even make a little sound when they come up to the surface to take a breath of air. They'll make a little squeak sometimes you'll hear, but it's so very, very little that you really have to be paying attention to catch it. But it's so cute. I love them so much. Like, I am going to have axolotls forever.
Yeah.
As long as I'm allowed to.
They're cool. Well, I'll make sure
make sure that they stay around long enough for the next generation to enjoy them as well. So you guys can definitely check out that Moha site, see the conservation efforts being done to keep these guys around and to clean up their native habitats, and maybe look into them, this SciBac program, to see if there's anything you guys can do to spread the word to make sure that axolotls are here to stay.
All right. Well, I think we've got about 5 minutes or maybe even less left. I just noticed the time crept up on us if we're going to end at 9. So does anybody have any last questions or comments for Roxanne? So, I'm going to make sure that I've got your address. I'll message you and so that I can send you eggs.
Okay.
and this would be a good time to ship.
It's a perfect time to ship them for eggs, but we're still waiting until nighttime temperatures are 32 or above to start sending out the axolotls that have been reserved. So little
Yeah.
Dee Dee Bean and Jeffrey will be coming home, and Lady R. We still need you to email us if you're here to set up your video appointment so you can pick out your baby as well.
Now, when will you guys start your regular shipping, or did you just say that?
Our regular shipping will resume also when temperatures start staying within.
End of March, probably.
Yeah, end of March, beginning of April. It's Wisconsin, so cold lingers a little longer.
Yeah, yeah. I may
Safety
want to get some other things. Yeah, you have quite an impressive list of stuff, so I may want to get some other things too.
Yeah, we have some other things spawning right now, like the longfin paleotis have been spawning this week. Finally, they've been dropping some eggs for us. Our longfin panda cories have started going for the first time, so of our stir-by cories, so we've been getting a few of those. Our
Got
CPDs.
some rainbows. You like rainbows?
Yes, our Kamaka rainbows, our Ave Creek Bosemani rainbows have spawned, our Papau rainbows are spawning as well. So we have a bunch of reservoirs going, like the CPDs, and we are playing musical tanks with the Kubotes and the Axolotls and the Phoenixes at the moment. Oh, we also have Chopre Danios that have spawned, and we have a bunch of stuff. We have a bunch of stuff that's spawned.
Here's a good question.
If they develop some type of depression, if kept by themselves for a long time. Well, no, that's why you have to give them things in their aquarium to stimulate them with axolotls. They're like, if you put anything in a cell with nothing to play with, it's gonna get bored and like lose its mind. So they like things in there to interact with. You can put little toys. You can rearrange their.
Even plants.
Yeah, they like their plants. They like to hang out and float in the plants. They like when you come and play with them too. Whether you run your finger up along down the tank or if you have a laser light, as long as you don't point it directly into their eye, they like to chase that too because it's red and they think it's food. But they're just water puppies. They like to play and just give them safe things to interact with and change up their environment. You can move it around when you do your water changes, like put one rock pile from the left to the right, and that's excitement for them for the week. And that's how you keep them entertained.
That's cool. Funny because I was running my finger up and down the tank and it tried to bite it.
Yeah.
It's like,
You probably wouldn't have to keep them apart long. Also, if you can rearrange the by adding them back, that helps a lot. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because it then changes up his territory and he's not like, this is all mine. He's like, where are we?
Right.
Stimulation from axolotl, I'll do it from back to axolotl. Yeah, it's not an issue. Love all your pets, whether they're furry, reptilian, amphibian, finned. You have to spend time with all your children.
Yes,
All
you
your
do.
kids need attention. Give them all some love.
Okay. All right. And Brian, I forgot to say thank you for the tour. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Good job.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. And if
for having
anybody has any questions later, put them in the comments below. And we'll make sure that Roxanne sees them. So thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming and talking to us. I learned quite a bit. So I'm really glad
Thank you for having us up.
enjoyed it.
my fault.
All right.
Yes,
mine.
to spread that out. It's a
And
lot
thank
of
you.
education, so greatly appreciate it.
Tennessee Fish Mafia. That's right. And thank you, panel. Always awesome. And thank you, chat and moderators. So good night. And is there a link for Kenny there, or are they going?
Yeah, I put a link in there a little bit ago.
Okay. All right. And Holly is a freaky fish lady. When I was saying I'd sent somebody else some eggs, that's who it was. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.